Hi, Dr. Cowie. Thank you so much for being available at this early hour. I think where you are, it's about 6:30, or it's 6:30, yes?
That's right. Not too bad.
Well, thanks so much for being willing to be up. So why don't you just tell us your experience with Buteyko and what your thoughts are about it as an adjunct to all asthma treatment.
Yes, thank you. Well, my opinion about Buteyko is based on a study that we did here at the University of Calgary, and which was published earlier this year in the British Journal of Respiratory Medicine. And in that study, we took approximately 120 subjects who had asthma and who were on conventional treatment. And it turns out that about 40% of those people, though they were on what's accepted to be conventional and appropriate treatment for asthma, had their disease under control. In other words, 60% of them, the majority of them, were still suffering from their asthma with attacks that led them to emergency departments, with waking at night with shortness of breath, and having some aspects of their everyday lives impacted by asthma. So we took this group of people, randomly divided them into roughly two, and half of them were then subjected to the Buteyko technique by an experienced Buteyko practitioner who we had invited to come in from Australia to train this group. And cutting to the chase, the program lasted approximately 5 days, which is the usual for Buteyko. And what we did was we got back to these people, these and the control group, 6 months after they had completed their Buteyko training, so a good period afterwards, and then examined them to find out whether their asthma was poorly controlled or well controlled. And it turned out that 6 months after the Buteyko intervention, 80% of them, 75% of them, had their asthma well controlled. It's almost double the number who had disease control. And in the Buteyko group, this had been achieved with some reduction in their medication. So I thought that was a very good result, and showed that there clearly is a role for Buteyko training in people with asthma on conventional therapy who have not achieved good control of their disease. And indeed, there may be a place for anyone with asthma if it's going to allow them to achieve control with a smaller dose of conventional medication.
Well, Dr. Cowie, I just want to thank you. Of course, those who really want to find out about Dr. Cowie, who has been doing work in the field of respiratory medicine for how many years, Dr. Cowie?
No, you don't want to know that, do you? Let's round it off at 40.
Okay. Yes. But his papers and all of the things that he's done are easily accessible on the Internet. If you Google Dr. Cowie's name, Dr. Robert Cowie, C-O-W-I-E, if you just Google that, you will see how extraordinary a man this is, who has done such great work in the field. And we're just so thankful that you became involved with this.
Dr. Cowie, I have a question for you. You've been in medicine for 40 years. When did you come across Buteyko, and how did it begin to change your mind?
Well, it happened like this: that a man who had asthma for much of his life had gone off to New York from Calgary quite a way to go, and had been trained by a Buteyko practitioner. And as a result, was really very, very pleased with the impact on his asthma. He came from a fairly wealthy local family, and so he and his family approached the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Calgary and said, would they be interested in starting a Buteyko program? So the dean's office contacted me, and I said, well, we're jumping the gun. We really need to first of all find out whether it works or not.
Well, folks, that was Dr. Robert Cowie, one of the world's authorities on respiratory illness, who did the study that so amazed him.